So I thought I'd do a quick video just showing my basement wall situation I've been working on the past, I don't even know, 3 or 4 months at this point. So when I bought the house about 9 months ago, I didn't notice that this wall is leaning in, bulging a little bit. It's just not real noticeable when you first look at it, and the home inspector didn't notice it. I mean, it was just like one day I'm like looking at it and thinking, it's like that wall's leaning in a little bit. You start measuring and looking, you're like, yeah, I think it is. And then you're like, well, what in the world? What do you do about that? How bad is that? How do you fix it? Should I do anything about it? And all that. So I spent months researching it, learning how common it is and all the different situations. And I came to the conclusion that I could at least slow it down or possibly fix it by putting in steel I-beams bolted to the floor and to the top, to the floor joist with like a screw or a bolt that pushes on them, and you can put a lot of pressure on them that way. So I spent a while designing that, ordering the parts. I made all these brackets for it. That took some time. You just ordered angle iron and channel and all thread and bolts, and I ordered these 4-inch I-beams to the right lengths from a local company. Got all that in, bolted it all to the floor, figured all that out. And got all that in and thought, well, that should at least help it. It seemed like what the professionals do is actually built a little bit stouter than what they use, at least on this one side. And I'll show you the other side of the basement here in a minute, which is going to have to be a future project because it's a finished area. But I thought at least I could help that over here for the time being. Well, I got that done, and then maybe, I don't even know, a month later, I started noticing some other things that made me realize that what I did probably didn't actually do much of any good. And it's actually a situation that they call racking, like the house is racking essentially. So let me take you over here and show you a little drawing I made a while back to help illustrate it. So this is looking down on the house, and if you see the house from the outside, it's on the side of a hill, and the force is pushing on one side of the house more than the other. So again, you can see at the bottom of the picture here, the hillside force is pushing on this length of the house. It's about 50 by 30 is the layout of the house. But where I was just showing you those beams is where it's roughly where it says hillside force. So it's pushing on that one side, and it's actually bowing the house kind of like this in a way, very slightly. I mean relatively. So you're looking at about 3 inches here. This is measuring how far out of plumb the wall is. About 3 inches here, 2, 1, down to essentially 0. Roughly the same thing on the other side. So again, it's bending in a couple inches over about a 50-foot span. Well, these other walls in between are moving as well. So this is a wall that holds up the center of the house. It's moved about 2 inches here, about an inch there. The other side of the house, it's moved about an inch. So I don't know if the floor joists are kind of compacting as they go, because it's moved 3 inches here and over only an inch here, but all these walls are leaning, and I'll show you that here in a second. There's also a front porch on the outside of the house that has about a 10 by 50 slab of concrete. It's actually pushed that slab as one unit and created a gap on the ends. You can see, if you're on the front porch, you can see about a ½ inch. So there's all these signs started adding up that it's more than just the wall leaning. It's actually bowing the house and pushing it in. So like, for instance, I don't know how well you can see it here, but these doors, the frames anyway, are actually leaning in to my left a little bit. So the top's about maybe an 1.5 inches to the left versus the bottom. Probably not the best picture here to show you, but I'll get my laser level, which I've since bought, out. That is very handy for looking at stuff like this. It's just a little cheap $30 laser level from Amazon. I mounted it on a tripod for a camera, and let me get it set up here, give you a better idea. So there you go. So that's plumb, that line, that I-beam is pretty much in line with the wall, maybe a little worse because it's bulging a little bit. So it gives you a rough idea how far that's actually off. Again, not the best angles ever, but I'm measuring 3 inches at the top. And like I said, it gets better as it goes. That's about the worst spot there, since it's about the middle of the house. But if I take the level over here, I can maybe try to show you. One second. Get it set up here. So you can see the level, or the laser, is closer to the top than the bottom. So I started noticing on all the doors kind of shut on their own. You got to keep a door stop in them because they're leaning a little bit. This center wall in here, block wall, it's doing the same thing. It's leaning in. When I measure this block wall, it's leaning again from the picture I showed about 2 inches to that one side. So it's out of plumb. Again, everything's just kind of, as that wall leans, everything's just kind of shifting over. There's a storage area over here. Inside here, we've got a plumb on there, measuring it. Again, it's off about 1 inch all the way down through there. So let me take you into the finished area. So in here, a little different scenario because I can't really see the wall exactly. But I have always noticed over in this area that something seemed off. I didn't know if it was the framework, if something had sunk. When I bought the house, I never even thought twice about racking or knew anything about that. So I never even thought about it. But like, you might be able to see the refrigerator here. There's you can see it much better in person, but there's way less gap at the top of the refrigerator than the bottom, a couple inches maybe. Same thing here. You can see kind of there. So something always seemed off to me, and it all just started adding up. What's going on? It's more than just that wall leaning. It's, like I said, the whole house bowing. So the next step was to figure out what in the world do you do about that. So I'm gonna pause here and take a couple of covers off for you and show you behind this wall.